What is up, everybody? What is up? What is up? Welcome to episode number 84. 84, I believe it is. Should be 84. The Super Grapple Bros podcast. I am one of your hosts, Murpho, going solo once again. Normally, we are two brothers who are former WWE employees that enjoy to talk about wrestling and video games. Enjoy talking about wrestling and video games. DMurph, once again, not with me. The Brock Lesnar of the show. Only shows up on limited dates, not trying to defend his predictions championship, which is behind me, as it always is on that couch. It has not been around my shoulder and around my waist in a long, long time, and it is because DMurph is a coward and will not show up on the show regularly. He's being lazy like Brock Lesnar. But no, in all honesty, in all seriousness, DMurph could not make it because, unfortunately, a stomach bug has gripped Casa de DMurph. And he's dealing with sick kids, just vomiting all over the place. And he did not want to come over and potentially risk, in case he was carrying whatever bug was going around at the house, infecting myself over here. So he was actually doing me a nice thing. But I'm going to go ahead and just call him a coward anyway, just for the sake of building up the rivalry and building up the prestige of this championship behind me on the video version. Anyway, all of that random rambling aside, all I want to say, oh wait, maybe it won't be. Big Stupid comes in. What is up, man? He says, hey, watch your mouth, sir. I will not stand for this blasphemy. The advocate for DMurph getting his little jabs in there. It's okay. Just like Big Stupid, I just want to say maybe you should advocate to become the advocate for Batista as well, because just like DMurph, he's a quitter. And maybe you should just, do it for somebody who's a part-timer who doesn't show up all the time instead of backing somebody who's here every single week. Huh? How about that? All right. Enough of that aside. We got a big show for everybody today, this week. Lots of stuff regarding Wrestlemania and the forming of the cards for Wrestlemania 35 and for NXT TakeOver New York. Formed this week, so there's going to be a lot in the wrestling recap. The big news story, which we're going to be talking about today, is that WWE has announced that it will finally be leaving at long last after it being their headquarters since the beginning. Titan Tower in Stamford. They will be relocating to a new building in Stamford. There's a story on that. There's a quote from Jim Ross about AEW, which is a very interesting note. Quite a few quick hits. And then in gaming, we have the review roundups, thanks to VG247 of The Division 2 and Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Plus the big news that Google has unveiled its own gaming platform, Stadia. Apex Legends Season 1 dropped. Battlefield 5 unveiled its Battle Royale mode Firestorm, and then there's a lot of quick hits that I couldn't get to in addition to all of this news that dropped this week that I want to at least mention. But let's go ahead and and get into the weekly recap. As Big Stupid says, hey, don't make me break the fourth wall like everybody else seems to be doing in every storyline right now. Oh man, yeah, like everybody seems to be doing. It's true, although it wasn't as bad with the Batista Triple H storyline this week, which we'll get into later. Or should I say in a little bit? Let's get into the weekly recap. The biggest thing coming out of Raw this week, that's got quite a bit of the WWE fan base in an uproar, and I can't really argue with them, is that Kurt Angle announced who his opponent at WrestleMania 35 will be. There was lots of speculation. Would it be The Undertaker? Would it be John Cena? I floated the idea of, if he's not hurt, would it be Jason Jordan? It is none of those people. It is going to be, wait for it. You may want me to keep waiting because you'll just be disappointed when you hear it. Baron Corbin. Now, from a storyline perspective, this makes sense given the history that Kurt Angle and Baron Corbin have in a storyline going back to like September, when Corbin joined Kurt Angle as the fellow authority figure on Raw and then eventually usurped him. But and for any other WrestleMania match for Kurt Angle, this would be fine. This would be okay. If it's a storyline, Corbin's a good hand. Angle, is a legend. It would be an entertaining match. It would work with the storyline. I think the big thing that most people have a problem with, and what I have a bit of an issue with, is that this is supposed to be Kurt Angle's final match. And, you look at final matches in WWE, whether they were true retirements or not, you know, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, and matches such as that. Those are the first two that come to my mind. For example, or Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock at WrestleMania X7. Like they're like those guys go up against other established legends and icons of the industry, so that way they can go out in a big time match with another icon who is going to continue to wrestle, basically like almost like taking on the mantle, the torch being passed on. And unfortunately, like this really isn't it. This ain't it, Chief. Like Baron Corbin, no offense to him, I'm sure he's a very good dude and that he works his ass off, but he has only been in the WWE for a couple of years, on the main roster for like a couple of years, like a year or two. And he's not that kind of transcendent, like legend, guaranteed future Hall of Famer, that caliber of opponent that a lot of people feel that Kurt Angle should have for his final match. And like, that's not a knock on Baron Corbin. It's just, you could say the same thing about like a Chad Gable, who we had an amazing match with. Even you could even argue like Jason Jordan, what I was pitching last week, didn't even fit. Unless you wanted to use it to elevate Jason Jordan and play into the family angle. But, that's why people were floating around. Maybe not so much The Undertaker, because Undertaker is, on his last legs. Maybe like somebody like a John Cena, where it fits storyline wise and he's an established legend. Could do somebody like if Randy Orton wasn't doing AJ Styles, somebody like an AJ Styles, bring back an old legend, maybe have The Rock, somebody, maybe even like somebody who is obviously pegged for big things or who has been around for a while, like maybe like a Bray Wyatt, if you still want to bring Bray Wyatt back and make Bray Wyatt legitimate for a long time. Hell, have Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy are just doing random tag matches. They might be in a multi-man match. Maybe have Jeff Hardy face Kurt Angle, or maybe have, I don't know, just Baron. All I know is just Baron Corbin ain't it. It fell flat, and a lot of people don't agree with it. Neither do I. And again, if this wasn't being billed as Kurt Angle's final match in WWE, it wouldn't be a big deal. It's mostly the fact that it's his last match. But I've said all I want to say about that. I've lingered on it too long. Let's go on to the other stuff that happened on Raw. Beth Phoenix announced her intentions to come out of retirement and to challenge Sasha Banks and Bayley in the for the women's tag team titles at WrestleMania 35, which is what we believed all along. This is just the natural progression of the storyline. Her and Natty engaged in physicality with Sasha and Bayley after challenging and talking smack to one another. And yeah, it pretty much looks like they're going to be including Beth Phoenix and Natty into the championship match. It just hasn't been made official, but this is just a further step. And Phoenix formally announced that she wanted to, on TV, that she wanted to come out of retirement for that match. Triple H caught a promo that was much better than the last 2 weeks worth of storyline we've gotten out of Batista and Triple H. In what was supposed to be an interview with Batista in his office in his home with Michael Cole. They went back and forth. I liked that it was really good, and Batista, I liked it, and it was really good because of the way that Batista painted Triple H, which is a very true portrayal of Triple H historically, especially heel Triple H. He mentions how, with Evolution, Triple H, like with Evolution with DX, Triple H only built people up or surrounded himself with people who could build him up. He never intended for Randy Orton and Batista to surpass him. He only wanted Randy Orton to be there for star credibility, for validity as with him as a young superstar or as a young guy, for him to potentially mentor and to help make him better by his accomplishments, reflecting on Evolution and reflecting on him. And he also said like how Batista was really only supposed to be the muscle, the bodyguard for him. And he mentioned in Generation X, which was true. Like if you think about it, like once Shawn left DX, like the other DX afterwards was great. But did you really think that Billy Gunn, that Road Dogg, and that X-Pac were going to be as good, if not better, than Triple H or supersede him? No, they were pieces meant to help elevate him and make a great stable. So a lot of what he was saying had some good truth in it. And, Michael Cole brought up, like, well, what about his work on NXT, which is also kind of kayfabe in a way, so it's not entirely breaking up the fourth wall. Batista got upset. Technically, you could say Batista could have said something along the lines of, like, what about all the people who were there? How many of them have they built up? And look at Seth Rollins. He tried to tear Seth Rollins down, who was the most successful product of NXT, and he's just doing it to stroke his own ego, like he did with DX and with Evolution. He builds things to cement his own legacy. But that was kind of along the lines of what Batista was saying, while getting aggravated and agitated over the fact that Michael Cole and apparently the WWE Universe don't see Triple H that way. And he got angry at the end and then, like, yelled and told people to get out of his office. I thought it was a much better promo than what we've been getting. It's probably the best segment involving this angle since Batista attacked Ric Flair. And yeah, it was very, very good with regards to getting the story back on track. And moving on to other happenings, as we move on to the next thing that happened on Monday Night Raw. Braun Strowman announced that he will be in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. And I guess that's what's going to happen with him. There's really nothing else for Braun to do. There's already 1,000,001 matches, and it does suck because Braun was being... there were points where he thought Braun was going to be challenging and being in the main event. Challenging for the Universal Championship and being in the main event of WrestleMania, or one of the main events, quote unquote, one of the headline matches of WrestleMania. But unfortunately, there really wasn't much to do with him. And to be honest, if you put him in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and he wins, he still looks good. He wins that coveted championship, or that coveted trophy. It's another notch in the belt for his career. It's another good accomplishment for him. It makes him look strong, and it's not reuniting him with Nicholas in a tag match again. So anything other than that, anything that isn't that, I think is an upgrade for Braun Strowman at WrestleMania. We also learned in a video segment that 33-year-old WWE employee Sue Atchison, who is the Senior Director of Talent Relations at WWE, is going to receive the 2019 Warrior Award at the WWE Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Apologies for yawning. Especially because I think this is a great move by WWE. It's a start as far as giving WWE employees, regular WWE employees, recognition in the Hall of Fame, because this was what Warrior originally intended for the Warrior Award to be. When he originally pitched it, he wanted it to be, and this is public knowledge, because I believe he had mentioned it in like an interview, or it was his documentary, or in a promo, that he wanted the Warrior Award to be an award that was given to the Warriors backstage for WWE, the people who work their asses off behind the scenes but don't get credit otherwise, don't get credit on camera. And WWE instead used it to as a means to highlight, like inspirational warriors who are fans who deal with disabilities. And so while that is also a really cool thing, and maybe that should be its own award too, I like that they're transitioning the award back to what Warrior had initially intended it to be. But I also think there is a place also for like some other type of award that maybe highlights somebody in the WWE universe who is a fighter, who is maybe dealing with some sort of illness or disability, but fights through it all and finds a way to find the good in life through wrestling or WWE or whatever, what have you. And that was everything that happened on Monday Night Raw. Switching over to SmackDown, the big thing that happened on SmackDown this week was the Kofi Kingston Gauntlet, which was incredible. Kofi Kingston faced off against both members of the bar. So that's Sheamus and Cesaro. He faced off against Randy Orton, Samoa Joe, and one other person who, for some reason, I am forgetting, I believe. And Rowan. Sorry, and Rowan. To earn his opportunity at the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. It was really great match, and pretty much almost everybody because it was all heels, almost after everybody except for Randy Orton lost, they beat the hell out of Kofi, which just helped build the babyface sympathy. I thought it was booked splendidly. And then E and Xavier come out. They're celebrating with him. All the babyfaces in the back are celebrating with him. And then here comes Vinnie Mac. Mr. McMahon comes out and says, that was great. That was truly unprecedented and unpredictable. Unbelievable. And but then he goes, but I'm not convinced quite yet that you deserve the opportunity. I'm going to put you in one more match. If you can win this match, then you'll get your opportunity. And it's Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan comes out and Kofi, God bless him, does his best to fight through it. But D. Bryan knocks him down, delivers those ruthless kicks, and then a running knee. 1, 2, 3. Kofi Kingston is not going to WrestleMania. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Again, a lot of people are, I don't know why, but people were upset and thinking that like this legitimately meant that nobody was going to, that like Kofi wasn't going to WrestleMania now, and that this is just WWE trying to bury Kofi so that way they can put somebody else in the WWE Championship match. And I don't agree with this. This is perfect building babyface sympathy so that way he can eventually overcome the odds. Either this Tuesday on SmackDown or next Tuesday on SmackDown, Kofi Kingston will get his match at WrestleMania, and it will be amazing. Like I even got asked by Adam Ritt on Twitter. He asked me, he's like, do you still think we get Kofi versus Bryan at Mania now? And I responded to him by saying, yes, absolutely. Tonight just proved to me that match, just what happened, proved to me even more that they're going to pull the trigger on that. And this isn't part of TV, but to add to this storyline, there were a couple of promos cut by Big E and Xavier Woods on Twitter to further along the storyline. Xavier Woods was at GDC, and he was talking about how, I've built myself up in the game industry. I have plans for what to do in the game industry. And thank you, Vince, for allowing us the opportunity to perform in your company and allowing me to make these connections in the gaming industry via my success in WWE. But, this isn't the only thing I do is wrestling. And in order to go off into gaming and not be beat up every single week, I'm okay with that. So thank you for the opportunity, but I will leave because this is ridiculous what they're doing to the New Day. Now, Big E's promo, and Big Stu was asking me how I'm taking this. Big E in his promo says, people like us, we're not, being put, we're not being put in the certain position. I'm not entirely sure if he meant that as a race thing, but if he did, I'm okay with it, I guess. I don't think WWE is going to lean into that. But it was interesting, I will say, from Big E to say that. When you look historically, especially when you look at what happened to Booker T, they're granted it was the World Heavyweight Championship, but it's kind of true. WWE champions who are of African American descent are The Rock, and you can count Mark Henry with the World Heavyweight Championship. If you want to count Bobby Lashley in the ECW Championship, you can count him. Booker T when he eventually won the World Heavyweight Championship, but they're few and far between. So if that's where he was going at, he technically has a point. But I don't know if that's the angle that this story needs to go at, and that's not where Mr. McMahon has been going at with this story. It's more the B+ player type route. And Daniel Bryan even accentuated that with what he was saying in his promo, that it was like, with me, I never got my opportunity, or I got my opportunity, I won it, and then they actively screwed me out of it. I won the championship and whatnot. And he said, sorry, I got distracted for a second. He said, Kofi had his opportunity to win the championship, at Elimination Chamber. He was against me, and he lost. And so Daniel Bryan was more like he had his opportunity. He's a B+ player because he lost. Big Stupid, is that how you interpreted it? Because that's how I did. Not saying Vince is a full racist, but curious your thoughts. Yeah, it doesn't have to. I think he was just alluding to the fact that not a lot of African American superstars or wrestlers have won the WWE Championship, and I don't think he's insinuating. I don't know if he's insinuating racism, and I don't think Vince McMahon, if you want me to get real, I don't think Vince McMahon's a racist at all. But from a storyline standpoint, you can draw the connections and like mention it, and I guess he went that way. But it's awkward. It's awkward, and I doubt WWE is going to lean into that. I would like to just headcanon it as he was potentially referring to the New Day. And to further support that, like when I look at Xavier Woods' promo, he got close to almost saying something similar to E, but he was saying, the New Day, and and was saying like how like the New Day wasn't getting any respect. And I think that might be maybe what he was getting at, but I don't know. It was weird. And I would prefer it if WWE didn't lean in that direction, because Kofi's going to win the championship one way or another. Does race need to be made an issue like this? And this is me legitimately like asking. I don't know if it needs to be. I think the storyline as is, where it's just Kofi's been working his ass off for 11 years and just hasn't gotten the opportunity because Vince doesn't see him as a star. It's very similar to how Vince doesn't see other superstars as stars. It was similar to the Daniel Bryan story. You could say with CM Punk never getting into the main event of WrestleMania. I think it's more of a Vince sees certain type of guys, a certain type of wrestlers and superstars as only being able to get so far. And they can only get to this point and then nothing further unless something happens that shatters the glass ceiling. And even then there's a chance he might not let you get even further. And I think that may be more of what E was trying to get at, because that was kind of in line with what Xavier Woods was saying about the New Day as well. And it has that kind of synergy to it. And like Big Stupid said, perhaps Big E misspoke or didn't choose his words in maybe the most ideal of fashion. But, I don't know. I wasn't there when he cut the promo. And I hung out with E backstage, and I know him as a really awesome, genuine person in real life, but I haven't spoken to him in years. So, like, I can't get into his head and know, like, what he meant by that promo. But yeah, he might have misspoke or not realized that's how people would have taken it, and it might have meant, like, people like us, as in, like, superstars or just wrestlers in general like us, or maybe people who are seen as tag team specialists are only good in one or two things, can't break the glass ceiling. Could mean guys like Cesaro as well, stuff like that. But yeah, the best ending to this whole feud, which will never happen, is Punk helping Kofi at Mania. That would be great. That would actually be pretty awesome because Kofi and Punk were tag team champions together for a while way back when. All right, so that's everything regarding the Kofi Kingston situation. And those are my thoughts on everything. I don't think it's a racist thing. I think it's more of a, like Big Stupid just said in the chat, like upper mid-card talent or like mid-card talent that like Vince sees certain wrestlers as only being able to get so far, and that it's not so much a race thing. He just sees certain people and says, oh, these guys are only going to get to here, but I'm never going to let them get above that. So moving on to other things that happened on SmackDown. Rey Mysterio, in a backstage promo, revealed that he will face Samoa Joe for the U.S. Championship at WrestleMania 35 on SmackDown. So everybody who thought, well, maybe John Cena will face Samoa Joe for the U.S. title because the whole R-Truth thing, Apparently that's not happening anymore. They just threw that out, unless they want to just throw John Cena in at the last minute and make this triple threat match, which they could still do, but we'll see. Almost seemingly out of the blue, and they basically, the reasoning, I guess, is because Ray beat, or was the one who pinned Joe last week on SmackDown. So, I mean, it's cool. It's going to be a cool match. It's just, it almost just feels like it's out of nowhere. Speaking of out of nowhere, this was revealed, like I said, in a backstage promo, and who is in that backstage promo but Rey Mysterio's son, Dominic, out of nowhere, is just there. Was apparently there for SmackDown, and he's been getting trained as a wrestler by Lance Storm. He's been part of the Lance Storm school, apparently. And he was there in the backstage promo. He said he thinks that Joe's a bully and that his dad's going to do what he always does, which is beat the bully and bring another championship home and you know, have another championship reign in his storied career. And he also said that he will be in the front row for WrestleMania. So maybe we might be seeing, who knows, maybe Dominic is actually going to do something, maybe get physical in the match. And maybe we're seeing, maybe Dominic signed a deal with WWE. Maybe he'll be in NXT. Maybe he'll get some main roster experience and go down to NXT or something. Maybe he'll go to the Performance Center. So he's been trained by Lance Storm. Maybe they're just going to groom him and throw him right in. Or maybe this is just a one-off. Maybe it's to establish him so that way maybe when he gets some years in wrestling and he comes back, people know who he is again or are reminded from what he did at WrestleMania. It's very interesting. Makes me think that WWE really wants to do something with Dominic and turn Dominic into a second-generation superstar in the future. And they might be using this U.S. title match as a vehicle to do so. In 205 Live news, we finally know who is going to be facing off against Buddy Murphy for the WWE Cruiserweight Championship at WrestleMania 35, and that man is Tony Nese, who defeated Cedric Alexander in the finals of the WWE Cruiserweight Championship #1 Contenders Tournament that was taking place over the last month on 205 Live. Nese and Buddy Murphy were allies for the longest time. They were still allies when the match happened. Nese shook Cedric Alexander's hand, and then Murphy came in to raise Nese's hand, and then when Nese wasn't paying attention, assaulted him. So they're no longer allies. Nese is immediately the babyface. And there we go. That solves the heel versus heel issue. And so we have babyface Tony Nese facing off against heel Buddy Murphy for the Cruiserweight Championship at WrestleMania 35. And the final bit of news that we got that came out of TV this week from WWE was that William Regal confirmed via tweet after the airing of this week's NXT that Velveteen Dream will officially be challenged by Matt Riddle for the North American Championship at NXT TakeOver New York. So that is officially one of the new matches. That, along with the Women's Championship Fatal 4-Way, are the two matches that are officially announced for NXT TakeOver New York. There are two others that have been revealed, tapings that I will not say right now, that will be happening. So we've got 4 matches that are happening, 2 are officially confirmed. And so that's everything that happened as a result of WWE TV. Let's get into the wrestling news. And the biggest story that happened this week, and it's a pretty significant story, is the fact that WWE has announced that it will be moving out of its legendary and iconic Titan Tower building in East Stamford to a new location in downtown Stamford, Connecticut. And I'll read off a quote from the press release and then let you guys know my take. I gave a bit of my take last night when I was streaming Apex Legends, but I will give another take on it right now. Quote from the press release says, WWE today announced that the company will move its global headquarters to a new office complex at 677 Washington Boulevard in Stamford, Connecticut. This move will allow the company to bring together its operations, including its production studios and corporate offices, at its new site. Quote, yawning. One of the most important elements necessary to execute WWE's long-term growth strategy is world-class talent collaborating seamlessly to create compelling content. Our workplace initiative will be the foundation to meet these objectives and underpins our ability to deliver long-term value, end quote, says George Barrios, WWE co-president. The new headquarters will provide the company with workspace suited to its growing and evolving workforce. The site in Stamford's central business district provides greater access from various means of transportation. Floor plans which are well suited to producing video content and greater flexibility in workplace design. The company anticipates that it will move to the new headquarters in early 2021. WWE will lease the space for an initial term of approximately 16 and a half years, commencing no earlier than July 1st, 2019, with 5-year renewal options thereafter. So, say July 1st, 2019, even though the move won't happen until 2021, is when they officially sign the lease. That way they can start moving stuff in there, getting the offices ready and whatnot. That means 16 and a half years. That means until 2035, or the beginning of, or January 2037 or February 2037 is when WWE will be in that building, and then they will have an option to stay in until 2042, and then 2047, 52, 57, so on and so forth. So I took a look at where 677 Washington Boulevard is. I took a look at the building. As you guys know, I did work at WWE. I commuted to Stanford to work for WWE. I worked in Titan Tower the entire time I was there. And I still work in Stanford. I actually work at the Chelsea Piers in Stanford with NBC Sports Group, which is literally 2 blocks away from WWE headquarters from Titan Tower. I still drive past it on my way to work every single day. And it's a little sad because Titan Tower is this iconic figure. And when you drive by Interstate 95, as you drive, if for those of you who don't know who are local, Interstate 95, it is one of the largest, if not and the longest interstate on the eastern United States. It goes all the way from Maine up north, all the way down to Miami and Florida, and it goes through Boston, Providence, Rhode Island, Stamford, Connecticut, as we mentioned, New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., as I mentioned, Miami. When I get to the southern states, it's a little harder for me to tell. I can't remember if it goes through Charlotte or Atlanta. I think it goes by Atlanta. But pretty much almost all the major cities on the East Coast, like I-95, is how you get to them. And one of the things you would see when you drove through Connecticut was Titan Tower, that big glass building with the WWE logo. Though it's funny, I always saw Titan Tower as this huge building, but when you work there and when you live in Stanford, you realize it's really not as big as it looks. It's only a 4-floor building, with like a 3 or 4 level parking garage underneath it. But it is still an iconic building. It's sad that it's gonna be moving. But I also looked at the location. It is like they say it is. It is literally right next to I-95. So you get off and exit, and it's right there. It is right next to the Stanford train station. So if people are that's which is along one of the Metro North lines, for the New York metro area, the New York Connecticut area. So anybody who is commuting via train to the office, either from New York City, or from, say, like other place in Connecticut, like New Haven or Bridgeport or what have you, it is literally across the street. So WWE no longer has to worry about using a shuttle to take their employees to the office. They can just walk literally a block there, and they're right there. I took a look at the building itself. It's a really nice space. It'll be able to, and there's a very nice like little mini park right next to it. It is almost immediately in downtown Stanford, so like it's a business district. A lot of other businesses are in there. There's a lot of shopping. There's quite a few bars and restaurants very close to where that is. In East Stanford, there was like a couple of like small restaurants, 1 maybe 2 nice restaurants. And in that part of Eastern Stanford, but really not much. It's kind of separated from main central Stanford, so at least it'll be more in the central area. And the other thing, the big thing, the whole reason why I'm trying to get to all of this is that it was needed. Even when I was at WWE, we would always talk about how Titan Tower, that WWE was outgrowing Titan Tower, and that it could not be in Titan Tower for much longer. That they had to move. Vince had to find a new spot for the company. And because, like I said, it was only a 4-story building. Not all of WWE's headquartered employees were actually in the headquarter building of Titan Tower. There was a second building where they had to move all of their TV production a couple blocks away, like half a mile away in Stamford. So now being able to move, it finally allows them to not have two separate buildings, two, potentially three separate buildings, because I think that even some of the departments, like digital, I worked in digital. I believe digital has actually been moved as of this year out of Titan Tower because other departments around there were getting so big that there wasn't space for digital anymore, and digital was getting too big for just one floor. Digital took up almost pretty much one entire floor of the company, so they had to move them over to near where this video production company was and move them into another building. They actually technically had three buildings. The Titan Tower, the production building was one full building, and then they had part of this other building. So it was very much needed for them to get out of Titan Tower, to get into this new building, which will be large enough to house every single division, and people won't have to worry about driving half a mile if you need to talk to somebody from TV, or if somebody from digital needs to go talk to somebody from marketing or ad sales. They don't need to worry about doing any of that. So I understand if people are saddened by this. It's an iconic structure. Everybody remembers that iconic Super Bowl commercial, but it was desperately, sorely needed, and I think it's a very good move for WWE. And now I will get a clear look of the WWE building. I will still drive right past it, so I'll still get my daily look at Titan Tower when I go to work. The other piece of not gaming, but wrestling news that I wanted to touch on before I got into the wrestling quick hits was that Jim Ross's people are apparently in talks regarding him joining AEW. No specifics on whether that means he would be filling out a backstage role or if he would actually be a commentator. But in an interview with ESPN's Outside the Lines, JR responded with a question about AEW, and I quote him here saying, "I don't know. We're talking. I just haven't signed anything yet. My people and their people are doing their thing." So, like we expected, that once JR wasn't going to be in WWE anymore, that he was potentially going to sign with AEW. So, he's in talks. So, there is still very much a possibility that come Double or Nothing, we will see JR, or JR will be an AEW employee. Whether that means he'll be involved in their talent division, or if he'll be some sort of brand ambassador, or if he'll actually be doing commentary of the sort, we don't know. But definitely keep your eyes out for some sort of Jim Ross to AEW announcement potentially coming before Double or Nothing. And now let's get into the wrestling quick hits before we transition over to the gaming portion of the podcast. In the wrestling quick hits, AJ Styles has announced that via his Twitter, while showing an image of his cute, adorable new puppy and new addition to his family, aka the puppy, he announced via Twitter that he has signed a new contract with WWE, thus ending any speculation that people had of him leaving and potentially going to AEW or some other promotion. I believe this was always going to be the result that was going to happen. And now all that, any kind of speculation saying otherwise can be put to bed. This is via AJ's Twitter account, which is at AJ Styles org on Twitter. In New Japan news, we finally know who's going to be facing Jay White for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship at G1 Supercard. As mentioned, Jay White announced when he won the IWGP Heavyweight Championship from Tanahashi, he mentioned that the winner of the New Japan Cup would face him at G1 Supercard for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. And the two men who will be competing for that right will be Kazuchika Okada and Sonata. That will be taking place on Sunday, March 24th. Today is Saturday, March 23rd. So if you're watching this on YouTube, it's already happened by now, and you know who's going to be facing Jay White. But it's interesting. Sonata actually beat Tanahashi in the semifinals. I think it's going to be Okada who wins because it makes sense. It furthers the storyline, but it would be very interesting to see Sonata potentially win and challenge at the G1 Supercard. So if you guys are listening to this or watching live at twitch.tv/L_Murpho, do not be sure to, if you have New Japan World, tune in, check out, see who wins in that match, because that should probably be a good one. And if you're on YouTube, you can go back and watch it on VOD, but you know the results anyway, I'm sure by now. And then in AEW news, we got a few AEW quick hits. The Young Bucks made a surprise appearance in AAA at Rey Del Reyes and defeated the Lucha Bros to win the AAA tag team titles. So the plot thickens surrounding those two. And I wonder if maybe part of the deal with AEW means that maybe the AAA tag titles are used instead of an AEW tag titles, or maybe just because they don't have AEW tag titles yet, they want to have a tag team championship involved, so they'll have the AAA tag titles involved in the Double or Nothing match between the Young Bucks and the Lucha Bros. Also, Being the Elite teased two things in its episode this week. It teased that Chris Jericho, a week after he berated Cody over the phone in a voicemail, is trying to turn the Young Bucks on one another. He left voice messages encouraging and praising both Nick and Matt in almost identical messages to each of them, and saying that he always saw them as the better Young Buck, and perhaps it's finally time for them to separate and for Matt and or Nick to become who he really is. And this might be Chris Jericho being aggravated and bitter at the whole Elite as a whole, as an extension of his hatred of Kenny Omega, trying to tear apart the Elite as a whole, defeat Cody, tear the Young Bucks apart, and beat Kenny Omega. Basically, Chris Jericho is flexing his muscles as the head heel of AEW. And speaking of Cody, it was also teased that we might know who, or we can at least speculate heavily as to who his Double or Nothing opponent will be. It has been heavily hinted that through promos that this man had a huge story involved with Cody, but we didn't know whether or not he was going to be facing Cody, if it was going to be a Double or Nothing or at a later event. That man is MJF. MJF was backstage at another show and was talking smack about the wrestlers he was talking about who have jobs with AEW, talking about how Cody's going to fire them if they say anything bad about him. And then he started bad-mouthing Cody, calling Cody a mark and everything. And this happened to happen as Cody was cleaning his ears in his hotel room, and Cody's apparent super hearing came back, and he heard what MJF said about him. MJF has been exposed now to Cody as a fraud, and Cody is very angry. Cut to black on Being the Elite for that episode. So it looks like we're going to be seeing this storyline develop even further, and we'll be getting Cody versus MJF at Double or Nothing, which I'm down for. That will be a very entertaining match, in my humble opinion. And then the AEW also signed a pair of superstars, female superstars, to its roster. Former Knockouts champion Allie has signed with AEW, which was revealed on the Nightmare Family, which is Cody and Brandy's YouTube channel, their Road to Double or Nothing series. And then it was also announced and revealed via Dave Meltzer at the Observer's Figure 4 Online website that UK wrestler Sadie Gibbs has also signed with the company. In signings, but with regards to WWE, former Impact Wrestling X Division and Tag Team Champion DJZ has signed with WWE and will be headed to NXT, and that is courtesy of Mike Johnson of PW Insider, who broke the news. And then the final little quick hit that I have is on a good note, some good news here. Flip Gordon has announced on his Twitter that he is officially cleared to compete in the ring. So, everybody should book Flip. On that note, as the final quick hit, we transition from wrestling over to the Vigi games. And in Vigi games, there were one new release, but two of them finally have review roundups. The Division 2 we talked about released last Friday, and there were no reviews at the time because I was recording on Saturday afternoon, but now a week has passed and we do have a review roundup. Both review roundups courtesy of VG247. The consensus for Division seems to be that it is a very fun game to play. Very addictive looter shooter, even though, unfortunately, the story is apparently very lackluster. I will read off some quotes, some headlines for places that didn't give scores and scores as well. VG247 said about Division 2, a game with nothing to say but plenty of tactical bum bags. Cheat Code Central gave it a 2.8 out of 5. Attack of the Fanboy, a 4 out of 5. PC Gamer, an 8.2 out of 10. Destructoid, an 8.5 out of 10. GameSpot, a 9 out of 10. Eurogamer says, an accomplished sequel with an awful story. Polygon said The Division 2 is a technical achievement as much as an artistic one. Games Radar is currently in progress with its review, so is IGN and US Gamer. So hopefully those reviews will be coming next week. I can bring those to you guys in the next episode of the podcast. So basically, Division 2 seems like it's a lot of fun. My clanmates are having a blast playing it. They're still talking about it in our Discord server and chatting about it. So I keep looking at it thinking, maybe I should pick it up. Maybe the Division 2 might actually be worth buying. Oh, DZ live in the chat, guys. Hey, DZ, how you doing? You down at what is it? 368 or 268 for Nice Stats Place today? I know that's what you do on Saturdays. For those of you who don't know, for those of you watching or listening, DZ Live, awesome streamer, very awesome, amazing professional studio setup, by the way. Go watch his streams. I admire his streams very much. But he operates out of, in addition to his own home, he goes on Saturdays to Casey Neistat's studio in New York City and does charity streams, which is very awesome. So go check those out if you guys are willing to donate to good causes. He does it with a lot of other guys. Tom Loco, who you guys know, who I play with on occasion and who I work with at NBC Sports. He also will occasionally go down there. So does Attack the Afro, who I was talking about last night, who does No Pixel, and a bunch of other awesome guys. DZ, you're off today, and you're doing it Monday night. Stomach bug and cold. Oh man, that's unfortunate. My brother's household is also dealing with a cold, which is why my brother's not here co-hosting the podcast with me. DZ says that he hated Division 2 though. Alpha and Beta. He hated the Division 2 Alpha and Beta, but man, the finished version is amazing, he said. So there's another reason, another stamp of approval for the Division 2, courtesy of DZ. And yeah, it's just encouraging to me that I pick up the Division 2. And DZ, thank you so much for the smiling 1-bit cheer. I don't have any change. I need change. I'm the hobo in that alert, and you are Randy Marsh. Change, please, change. Okay, so Division 2, really good game, very well received. DZL says, and Endgame will support 8-player raids. That is awesome. I'm gonna be picking up MLB The Show 19 this week, because I platinumed 18, and I really love my sports games. But Division 2, I really need to end up picking up. I love Division 1. Another game that's getting a lot of positive reception this week that were released this week is Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. The review roundup from VG247. VG247's headline says, From Software at its most unapologetic. IGN gives it a 9.5. Game Informer, 9. GameSpot, 9. Press Start, 9. COG Connected, 88 out of 100. Attack of the Fanboy, 4.5 out of 5. US Gamer, Destructoid, and Telegraph's reviews are all in progress. Polygon, they did not have a headline that really summed up what they said. It just said Sekiro review, so I took a quote from the end of the review saying, quote, Sekiro meets me with just as much effort and enthusiasm as I've put into it. It lets me know I'm capable and skilled and that I can figure it out. And then it hands me my ass again. So Sekiro, not a game that I'm really too familiar with, but I know that it was garnering a lot of buzz, that it came out this week. So if you're interested by the review scores, go ahead, give it a look, check it out. You might eventually also want to pick it up. So now that we've gone into the weekly releases, it's time to dive into the gaming news. We've got about 3 main stories before I go into the gaming quick hits. This next one is going to be a doozy. I'm going to be talking about it for a while, so buckle in and get ready, guys. GDC, this little thing that happens out in San Francisco, it's kind of a big deal if you haven't heard of it. They unveiled in the keynote from Google that they will be having their own game streaming platform known as Stadia. Now, for those of you who have been living under a rock in the gaming universe and haven't heard about Stadia, let me break down everything that Google hyped up Stadia to be. They claim that you can boot up a game within 5 seconds of selecting it to play it on any device. Specifically, they used a YouTube trailer for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which will be on Stadia. You watch the trailer. It says play now on the trailer on YouTube. You click it. It loads up the game immediately. They also showed off that you can switch between devices while playing a game. And they showed it off by switching from a tablet to an iPhone to a laptop to a television seamlessly within seconds of one another. I don't even think it was 5 seconds like they said before. And you would go right into the same spot that you were in the game. It remembers where you are. They also will have a controller revealed that looks similar to like Xbox controllers. It kind of looked like an Xbox controller almost to me. But despite having the controller, they let people know that you can still play with whatever controller you have. And you can also use keyboard and mouse with Stadia as well. They claim also that Stadia will be able to stream any game at launch at 4K and 60 frames per second. Google will eventually be aiming to reach 8K and 120 FPS streaming in the future. And basically the way that Stadia is working is that they're going to be using their own data centers and like Google's data centers to create almost like these little instanced console type things that people will be able to play off of. And so because it's all in their data centers, they got it themselves, they can basically just upgrade the equipment when they need to. They're Google. They can throw enough money at it. And that will allow them to be able to, as well as like improving their networks, to stream at higher resolutions and higher FPS. The platform promises, though, like you hear all of this, it's streaming. You wonder, like, how is latency going to be? Because a lot of companies have tried this before. It hasn't gone well. Uplay's been an issue. They are assuring people and promising that low latency will be a thing and that people will get good connections, even if they're in a spot with bad internet. Some tests have shown that if you're in a place with bad internet, it might work. And the latency maybe won't be so bad, but the quality may drop. You won't be getting that 4K 60 FPS. You might be getting a 720p or something, and 30 FPS or something like that. Stadia, like I mentioned, Stadia will use the data centers to run the games. It will be cross-platform multiplayer, and you can transfer your achievements and trophies and saves from other consoles and I believe computer games from PCs over to Stadia. Details about the service itself and what it's running on. They said that the service is Linux-based. It is supported by AMD's Vulkan graphics and Compute API and will feature a GPU with 10.7 teraflops of power. A lot of this is gobbledygook that I don't fully understand. Like I understand computing to an extent because, you know, I build my own rigs. But when it's to this scale, it's almost kind of like it's foreign language to me, and I take it with a hint of skepticism, though it is impressive. Again, 10.7 teraflops of power, which is more power than the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X combined. It has 56 quote-unquote compute units and HBM2 memory. It will have a CPU with a custom x86 processor, 2.7 gigahertz, is hyper-threaded, and has AVX2. I don't know what AVX2 is, but it has it. Its memory will also be 16 gigabytes of total RAM, which is what anybody recommends when you try to play a game. Up to 484 gigabytes per second transfer speed, and L2 and L3 cache of 9.5 megabytes. There will also be for streamers, and they talk to YouTube. So as you know, we're on Twitch. They talk to YouTube. So this will likely only be YouTube specific because Stadia is owned by Google. YouTube is owned by Google. Who knows if they will eventually bring it to other streaming platforms, but for now, we got to operate under the assumption this is only going to happen for YouTube. But there is there's going to be a new feature for Stadia known as crowd play. So if the streamer is using Stadia and you're watching the streamer and the streamer enables crowd play, like say they're playing a fighting game or they're playing Madden, or even if they're doing like say The Division or Sea of Thieves or Destiny 2 and you want to get in on their fire team, on their squad, or you're playing Fortnite or Apex Legends, you want to BR with them, they can enable crowd play for their followers, their viewers. And if you click to crowd play, you'll basically queue up to join them. And once people leave the streamer's group, the next person in the queue will join them, which is kind of cool. But at the same time, I think that benefits smaller streamers more than it does larger streamers, because when you get to guys who are big, who are pulling in about 1,000 viewers every single stream, or 500, even 500 or 200, how many people are you going to have queued up for that? And what if, and so it might have to be a thing to where it's like, okay, I'm going to stream for like a few hours. I'm doing a battle royale game with squads, 4 people or 3 people if you're doing Apex, and new players every game. That's still only like a rotation of 2 or 3 people every game. So if you're in a stream where there's like 1,000 people watching, and say even like half of that, 500 people have Stadia, but most of them want to queue in, you could be in a queue of 200 people, and divide that by 2 if you're doing Apex Legends. That's 20 games. So you got to hope that 20 games get played if you're on the back end of that. So there might be a little bit of an issue with larger streamers. This might benefit smaller streamers more. But again, it'll be interesting to see when it comes out, which is what you can say a lot about Stadia. It's all a lot of really great, awesome, cool ideas that could be the future of gaming, that I hope is the future of gaming. But we got to wait. We got to be cautiously optimistic. We got to wait until it launches and see how it performs for people in their own homes with their varying different connections. A couple extra features that I want to mention before I move on to the next story is that Google Assistant will also be enabled on the controller. So if you get the controller, and they use as an example, say you're stuck at like a certain point. Say you're playing the latest Tomb Raider game, and you can't get past this one level. I think they might actually use Tomb Raider as a reference. But anyway, that's besides the point. Get stuck at this one spot, and you want to know where this one spot is, you use Google Assistant, and Google Assistant will determine through Stadia where exactly you are, and search and find a video that explains how to get past that part, and will open it on whatever screen your Stadia, your game is being played on. So you don't even have to go on to a second stream, and you can watch the video and then go back to playing the game and do what it says, which is a kind of cool feature. They also revealed the Doom Eternal will come out on the platform, and they also announced that they will have their own first-party studio, which will be called Stadia Games Entertainment, and it will be hosted by no slouch at all, industry veteran and one of the creators of the Assassin's Creed franchise, Jade Raymond, will be heading up Stadia Games and Entertainment. So Google's not pulling any punches here. They're going for it. They are really going for it. And Stadia will release this sometime this year in 2019 in the US, Canada, UK, and most of Europe. Google's, like I said, they have the money. If anybody can pull this off, I honestly think it's Google. If not Google, like maybe Amazon, because they're the 2 big, gigantic tech companies that have the tech infrastructure and the deep enough pockets to find a way to make this work by investing enough money into it. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it happens. This could be the time where a streaming platform works and it breaks through that glass ceiling of streaming platforms being as viable as PC and console gaming, and the industry gets revolutionized. If I'm Sony and Microsoft, if I don't have a plan to stream games, I better get on that real quick, because I would be nervous for this. We don't know what the pricing is going to be, though. We don't know if it's going to be some sort of monthly subscription. We don't know if the monthly subscription means the games will be free that you get, or if you have to buy the games after the fact. We don't know what kind of model it's going to be. So that's another thing that could be a bump in the road for Stadia. But it's an interesting, very kind of almost exciting time for games. And we'll have to see what happens. We'll see what the latency is, and we'll see if this becomes something to where either it's not viable, it's viable for everybody, or it's good for consoles, but maybe if you're a hardcore competitive gamer or a PC gamer who really wants that high latency, maybe it's not for you, but it's good for a lot of other gamers. And that's the big story in gaming today. We're going to move on now to the second story, which is Apex Legends has dropped Season 1 this week. I got to play it last night, as you guys know, picked up a couple wins. You know, we were champions a couple times over, no biggie. A couple second place finishes, a couple third place finishes. But the Battle Pass came out, and I got a chance to play it. I didn't buy the Battle Pass. I took a look at all the rewards, and I'll explain why I didn't buy it. The reason why I didn't buy it is because the general consensus for the Battle Pass, and I kind of feel the same, is a little underwhelming. The skins, while they're nice, decent skins to tie into the Wild Hunt theme, and the weapon skins are kind of okay. To me, I don't really like the aesthetic look of the skins on the weapons, and it's 1 or 2 skins, but just put across all the different weapons that are unlocked at different levels. So it's really not a ton of skins. And if you're only going to play the game, and you only play with like a Peacekeeper or an R301, which is my preferred loadout, not all these skins are going to be for you. It would have been better if they had different skin designs that worked on all weapons. And none of the skins. I already bought a legendary, or like bought with in-game currency. I haven't spent a dime on Apex Legends yet. I might buy the Battle Pass eventually, but I already purchased with in-game currency one of the legendary Wraith skins, who's my main. I have a really cool skin with Lifeline. I already have like different skins with most of the legends, and these skins that are in the Battle Pass for the characters, none of them are really like flashier or as bombastic, if that's a word that applies here, as big maybe as these other skins that I have, especially like some of the epic and legendary skins. So the only reason to really have them is just for bragging rights to say that you got the Battle Pass. So I don't know if I really want to get the Battle Pass for these skins. And all the voice lines are very generic of just the legends saying, "Hey, it's season 1." So that wasn't really cool. No funny quips or anything like that. The biggest appeal to this Battle Pass are the Apex packs that you get in it. Because once you hit level 26, every few levels you'll start getting an Apex pack. Either like an epic Apex pack where you're guaranteed an epic item, or a legendary Apex pack where the legendary there's a legendary drop guaranteed. So the good thing about Apex Legends of the Battle Pass though is that level unlocks are retroactive. So what I plan on doing is I'm going to keep playing during season 1 because I love Apex Legends. I'm going to play the crap out of it. And I'm going to see how far I get, how far I level up. And if I get to a point to where maybe I've gotten a couple of those Apex packs unlocked through the pay for Battle Pass, or maybe enough Apex coins to buy the next season's Battle Pass without having to spend money, because that's another thing you can do, then maybe I will go ahead and spend the money, spend the $10. Because then at least I'm getting Apex packs. But everything before that, the voice lines, the weapon skins, the character skins, they don't do it for me. I feel like they're very underwhelming. And Big Stupid says in the chat, Wraith is bae. I agree. Wraith is bae. Wraith is my bae. However, this isn't the only thing that came with the launch of Season 1, so it's not all negative. I don't want people to think that I'm like down on Apex Legends like crazy. I mean, I just played it for 3 or 4 hours last night. There is a new leader who is actually really cool, and I'm going to spend my currency on, my level up currency on, when I get the chance. Sorry, Caustic, not sorry. Because I've already purchased Mirage. And that is Octane. Octane is a new hero or legend. Sorry, this isn't Overwatch. His abilities are that he can gradually but slowly regenerate health, which helps because his active ability, that's his passive, slowly regenerating health. His active ability is that he can inject himself with this serum, and it allows him to run a hell of a lot faster, like as fast as Bangalore runs when she gets shot at. The expense is that it costs some health. So you have to be careful, especially if you're caught outside the circle, outside the ring, on when you use it and for how long. Which is very interesting. It's got a little bit of a strategic vibe to it. It's got a risk-reward way to use it. And then to add to his mobility, his ultimate is a deployable jump pad, which is awesome. It's so much fun to go and use and just get launched into the air and try to strategically land on places that you don't belong or shouldn't be on. So Octane, as the first downloadable or extra new legend, he's a hit. I think he's better than a lot of legends out there. I think he's better than Pathfinder. I think he's better than Caustic. I think he's better than Gibraltar. Who else am I thinking of? He's about on par maybe with Bloodhound and Bangalore. I think Wraith is still better. I think Lifeline's still better. But he is a very solid top-tier legend already coming into the game. His mobility makes him very viable. Mobility is key in BR games, in games where you have to, if you're in a firefight, find a way to get the advantage, either get the drop on somebody where you can kill them really quick, or get the heck out of dodge if you're in trouble really quick. And Octane does that. So he is right up there with Wraith and with Bangalore, whose abilities are very much movement-based and mobility-based and being able to get around the map quickly. So I'm very excited to eventually get a hold of Octane and try him out. For those who are curious about the lore of the character, he was apparently running in the series lore's Gauntlet, which I believe is some sort of race. It was mentioned and it was mentioned, referenced, or detailed in Titanfall 2, which unfortunately I didn't play. I played Titanfall 1 though. And he had to use a grenade to win the Gauntlet to like get across the finish line apparently. And doing so caused him to lose both of his legs, so he has replaced them with new metal legs, which allow him to move fast. So that's why Octane has metallic legs. The more you know. Cue Rainbow, do. I am an NBC employee after all. And then the final thing is that the update, I believe this is part of the new update, because I didn't encounter this prior to last night. The update has fully kitted out legendary versions of the Wingman and the Peacekeeper. I have never run into those before that, so if that's been part of the game since the beginning, I finally got lucky twice last night because I came both across both the Wingman and the Peacekeeper. But oh man, when you see that, oh, is it a happy day for you? Because those weapons melt people. Like the Wingman and the Peacekeeper regularly do, but these all have legendary level hop-ups and upgrades to them that just make them even deadlier. And while we're on the BR train, we're making that BR run, we're going to talk about another Battle Royale game and my final gaming news story of the podcast, Battlefield 5. You guys might know about that game, set in World War II. Didn't get the best of reception, but Battlefield's a fun series. I've enjoyed playing the games in the past. They've unveiled details about their Firestorm mode, which is basically their Battle Royale game mode. In a new trailer. It was a 3 minute 22 second trailer that they released on YouTube. And we got a lot of details about the mode, and it actually looks pretty encouraging, pretty enticing. You know, you guys know me. I've played PUBG, I've played Fortnite, I played Apex. I love my Battle Royales. And this might get me to maybe even pick up Battlefield 5. It's not free to play to start, so you have to purchase Battlefield 5. So maybe that'll hold me off for a while. Especially since I was just saying that I want to play, I'm going to pick up MLB and probably the Division. But details on the mode, it's 10 times bigger than the biggest map. It said 10 times bigger than a map, and I believe it. That's the biggest map in the game. If I'm wrong, please correct me. There will be 13 vehicles from Battlefield 5 that will be usable, which includes an amphibious vehicle and a helicopter. The destructible environments from the game are also in the Battle Royale mode, so you can shoot buildings to rubble. So it's not like in Apex or in PUBG where, you know, they're made of the buildings are made of indestructible materials that you can't tear down. It's very much similar to Fortnite where things can fall apart. The Firestorm acts as the circle or the ring for the game, so you could very much call it a Ring of Fire for any Johnny Cash fans out there. And that's the lovely cringe dad joke of the episode. You're all very much welcome. That is not just a ring that damages the players. It damages the environment and the buildings, and it destroys everything in its path. Fences, I believe vehicles, and buildings will fall apart and crumble if you're in the storm, which makes it a lot more open. And it's normally when you're in the circle, you're running like hell to get inside anyway. But it very much probably means that you will have a much easier line of sight in being able to see people who are outside the circle. And if you're outside the circle as well, finding them and hunting them down, or if you're inside the circle, makes it easier to potentially look in and maybe find people. Granted, there's the flames coming up, so that might obstruct your view too. But it's an interesting mechanic that I'm generally curious to see how it plays out in actual games. Another interesting feature that BRs haven't used that I think I've seen that I can't remember. I know another game has used this feature, but I cannot remember it, and it hasn't been a Battle Royale that I've played. But if you're knocked down, waiting to get revived, you're not dead. You can actually fight back. Players will be given pistols that they can use in a last-ditch effort to try to save themselves from getting killed, or maybe even potentially knock and kill enemies and shoot wildly at. And what game was it? There was a game where when you got shot, you would fall to the ground, but you were given a second chance to shoot people with a pistol, and if you got a kill, you were revived. I can't remember the game, but that's basically what Battlefield is reminding me of. But instead, once you get the kill in Battlefield, you won't get revived. Your teammate still has to come and revive you, but you just haven't been eliminated completely. And the last little interesting thing is that there are heavy artillery vehicles that you can use in the game, like big-ass tanks and stuff like that. But in order to get them, you can't be running solo. No, you need the whole squad. The whole squad needs to go to these vaults that are hosting these heavy artillery vehicles. And I think you can open them solo, but it takes a lot longer, makes you a lot more vulnerable, because there are 2 valves and wheels that you'll have to turn to open up the doors. So like the whole squad kind of has to work together to get access to this vehicle and get access to it quickly. Exhale. We're done with the gaming news with all of that. We're going to get into now the gaming quick hits. This is all of the news that either was not detailed enough to warrant a more in-depth discussion, or something that I just didn't have time to get into in depth about, but wanted to make sure that people were aware of. First quick hit is that, a lot of stuff about E3. EA is not going to be there, even though they technically will be, but they won't. They won't have a press conference. PlayStation's not going to be there, but you know who will be there? Bethesda. Bethesda has confirmed that its E3 press conference is taking place on Sunday night, as it usually does, the Sunday night prior to E3. So it will be happening on Sunday, June 9th at 8:30 p.m. ET. That was announced via Bethesda themselves in an image. Apex Legends. We just talked about it before. There's some more news on it. Apex Legends has been estimated to have the biggest launch month, money-wise, of any free-to-play game, raking in a believed $92 million in the month of February. That courtesy of Sharif Syed of VG247 from a report that he found. There is a new Mortal Kombat 11 trailer for those of you who enjoy the fighting games, the punchy, stabby, killy fighting games, as they introduced the return of Kotal Khan, who I believe is the Emperor of Outer World. That was via Mortal Kombat's YouTube channel, so you can go check it out there. Devil May Cry 5 has sold more than 2 million units worldwide in just its first 2 weeks, and given the reception it got, I am not surprised at all. That was via Iron Galaxy designer Isaac Torres on his Twitter account at Durlatch. He took a picture of a slide from a presentation by Capcom saying as such. And then moving on to Anthem. For those who remember, a lot of people played Anthem, were excited about it, didn't do too well, wasn't received very well. But monetary-wise and shifting units-wise, it actually was quite a success. Despite the so-so reception, Anthem was the best-selling game of February. The second best-selling game of 2019 to date, though we are still early. We're only in the end of March, just getting into April. And it's the second biggest launch in BioWare's history, behind only Mass Effect 3. That was via the NDP report, I believe is the name of the organization, and it was reported on by Sharif Syed, again, of VG247. And the final bit of gaming quick hits that I wanted to get through was that Ubisoft revealed at GDC that, quote, several major PC releases will launch exclusively on the Epic Game Store. So more power coming to the Epic Game Store, more games making its way over to Epic. And that was via Ubisoft's State of Unreal presentation at GDC 2019. And with that, everybody, that is going to do it for this pretty long episode of Super Grapple Bros. We almost went an hour and a half this time. Do not forget that you can watch this video live, get involved in the chat like Big Stupid and DZ did by going to twitch.tv/L_Murpho and join in the conversation. Give me your opinions on wrestling, your questions on wrestling, on video games. If you want to add in your 2 cents to any story, anything that I talk about, any topic that we talk about on the show, come to twitch.tv/L_Murpho and get involved. You can also watch this in VOD on Twitch, but also on YouTube at youtube.com/LMurphoReal. You can leave your comment there if you have a thought on anything that was talked about in the show. I will do my best to respond. You can like, subscribe, share the video, all that good stuff over there. You can also listen to this show in audio form. Just search Super Grapple Bros via Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and more. We are on all the platforms. Every single platform, well, maybe not every single platform you think of, but a lot of them. A lot of platforms we are on for you to listen for your commute to work, or if you're bored at work, trying to pass time at work, or if you're just gaming, need something to listen to, we're normally a good thing. Says the guy who makes it, not biased at all. You can also, if you want to provide feedback and can't do it via comments or via the live chat, you can sign up to my Discord server for viewer predictions, for feedback. We actually have 2 channels. I got a little ahead of myself. We have 2 channels on the Discord server for Super Grapple Bros. You have the feedback channel where you can leave feedback, comments, criticisms, constructive criticism, obviously. Very vitriolic criticism will be swiftly deleted and you will be sent packing. Please be kind in your constructive criticism. Not honest criticism, but constructive criticism. Trivia, if you have any questions that you want to ask us, have us try to answer on the show, we'd do that as well. Concerns, all that good stuff, you can go ahead and do that at the Discord server. You can also leave predictions for WWE pay-per-views. Every single time WWE does a pay-per-view, and sometimes even on big shows like AEW and New Japan, DMurph and I will do our predictions to try and get to this lovely WWE Championship behind us, which DMurph has left here because he is a vacant part-time champ, just like Brock Lesnar. No good. Bum champ. Hashtag bum champ. You guys can compete along with us. While you will not be competing for this championship belt, you'll be competing for bragging rights. If you get the most predictions in the viewer channel, we will give you a shout out on the review episode of the podcast, which is the following episode after the pay-per-view. Or if you beat myself or Deemer for the predictions, we will shout you out as well. You can get access to the Discord server by checking out the channel page on Twitch, checking out the video description on YouTube, and going to the show notes in the audio version. You can also leave feedback for us at supergrappbros@gmail.com if email is more of your thing than Discord. And you can also follow us on Twitter. I am at L_Murpho. DMurph is at DMurph_42. We like to give announcements from when we stream. So do we on Discord. And we also, give our varying random tweets on things, all things video games, wrestling. I work in sports, so I talk about sports sometimes, geeky stuff like Marvel movies and whatnot. It's kind of entertaining, I think so at least. But again, I'm biased. I am talking about myself. But be sure to give us a follow. And we appreciate you very much. Just like we appreciate you for listening to episode 84 of the Super Grapple Bros podcast. That is the end of this episode, guys. And as always, we end the podcast with the Kayfabe News headline of the episode. And this headline is Brock Lesnar hopes that nobody notices that he lost the real Universal Championship. That one you thought you saw on Raw this week? Yeah, cardboard and duct tape. It's amazing what you can do with those things. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for watching or listening. I will see you in the next episode. Peace out. Deuces the deucey deuce. Bye now. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye. Catch y'all later. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Shut up and sit down.